Welcome back to the End the Stigma podcast, episode 4. Now, tonight we've got a very special guest indeed. But before I introduce him, I just want to say thank you to this week's sponsor, who is Construction Resources. It's Claire. It's a partner of a training partner of my missus. So thank you very much for your generosity, Claire. Right, let's introduce the guest. Now, the guest is working with some major athletes in the city, some great footballers, and he's doing some really big things with the mind. He's unbelievable. He's a very, very close friend of mine. It is the MindPT, Phil Steele. Phil, what's happening, mate?
Hello, mate. What an introduction.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
I like to give you the big one, mate.
Mate, the only way's down now. But no, thanks, mate.
No pressure, brother.
No pressure, mate.
Good. Right, Phil, I usually start, mate, with just a little bit of a check-in, just to see what's been happening for you recently, brother.
Yeah, so recently it's been a case of just juggling work and the clients I've got on, getting sort of the brand out there a little bit more to entice new people to think about working with their mind. And most importantly though, it's, spending a lot of time with my 3 sons, Oscar, Max and Joe. It was Max's birthday a couple of weeks ago, and dropped a big bombshell. He dropped a massive bombshell about a week or so before his birthday, because he decided, Paul, that he's a Liverpool fan now. Which, of course, me having 2 Everton tattoos, and being a big Everton fan, tried to talk him out of it. But the thing with Max, he's my middle lad, so he's just turned 6. He's very similar to me, to the extent of he does things differently. So whereas me, Oscar and Joe are Everton fans, he has to be a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
But Paul, I tried to talk him out of it. He's too little to hypnotise. My friends weren't happy. I don't think my brother's happy, but I took one on the chin and I took him into the Liverpool shop and bought him a Liverpool kit, and he even got Steele on the back. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing, mate, working and with the kids.
Tough times, mate.
Yeah.
You know what? I'd have a go at that, mate, about him turning into a red, but Aiden plays for Everton. Doesn't
Yeah,
he? So
mate.
I can't say too much. Yeah, no, should be swap lads.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just come off the back of a course, mate, with Martin Bone, to be honest.
Brilliant.
It was his level 4 course called Embodied Excellence, and it was it was an unbelievable course, mate, to be honest. And we finished on Saturday with like a bit of an initiation, like we'd done a shamanic practice.
Wow.
Which involves a sweat lodge.
Yeah.
So you're in like a sweat lodge for like 2 hours. It's incredibly hard, but so enjoyable at the same time. So I'm feeling really rejuvenated, mate, this week, and like a new start. You're like I've been birthed into new life.
You know what, mate? You can see it in your eyes as well.
Yeah.
Like your eyes just look clearer.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling, Phil.
Oh, you mean that's really, what the eyeshadow is, you put on.
How did you know? But yeah, that's me checking in, mate. So let's get into it, mate.
Brilliant, mate.
I always like to start, Phil. Just let's go back to your earlier years, mate. So as far as you want to go in childhood, and about what that was like, your family life and what your upbringing and things like that, mate.
Yeah, so I spent most of my life growing up in Waterloo, in North Liverpool, which was great, by the beach and by Victoria Park or Vicky Park. I've got an older brother, Mike, he's 4.5 years older than me, and he in many ways was similar. He's a really friendly guy in that, but we have totally different interests. So I suppose like it's through him that like I support Everton. But whereas like, especially back in the day, I was more into going clubbing and stuff like that. He's always been like a pub, and he gets up and he sings, and he loves like Oasis and stuff like that. Really hard-working guy. So growing up, the 2 of us with my mum and dad, and yeah, childhood was great up until my teenage years, probably. Yeah. Although in reflecting, so I taught a course recently called Glow, and I was telling them about this concept, and I was trying to think of something to tell them about, like, times when you're little, which something that could be trivial at the time might manifest into something bigger. And I remembered this. It's been such a long time. When I was 4, my brother Mike must have been arguing. I must have been annoying him. I was quite annoying. Yeah. He'd probably say I still am, but he told me Father Christmas wasn't real. So I'm 4. So I remember it. I went into the living room where my dad was. I was like, Dad, Mike's just said Father Christmas isn't real. And he went, yeah, no, he's not. I was like, 4?
Yeah.
And I'd forgot about that. But then when I brought it up to this group of people, I was like, wow. So something so little, it's crazy. Like, God knows how that's manifested in my mind. Since then. Oh, yeah, and especially hits home because my youngest is 4 now, and he's just he's like our little baby, our Joey. So, so that they were the early days. Lived
quite cruel, that, mate. To be honest, I remember when I got told about Father Christmas not being real. That sort of.
You were about 18, weren't you?
I was only, it was last year.
Well, if any kids are watching, by the way, he is real.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, so I suppose because we I know this podcast is for guys, well, for everyone really, but I know a lot of men watch it. So me experience, me dad my dad get a bit tongue tied talking. See, this is the difference, Paul, because you know me. You don't just know me when I'm being a MindPT. Of
course.
So this is why I was really looking forward to this, to see what the layers come off. So yeah, my dad has always been like, he was there for a lot of the time, but he wasn't present. If that makes sense. And he was my idol for many years, to the extent of when I was like 5, I used to want to have I used to call my bedroom my office, and I used to want to have hair gel, and I wanted to have businessman shoes and a briefcase. That was my goal. I didn't want to be a footy player at that time, or whatever else people want to be. So then fast forward a bit to my mum and dad splitting up when I was like 12, 13. And mate, I think back now, I'm bloody hell. Like, first of all, as I say to everyone, trauma and anxiety and pain is subjective. And I'm very blessed and lucky that, I've never wanted for anything really. And, we live in a place where we're safe and stuff like that. So, some of the memories I have though would not be nice to have as an adult, but as a kid, to the extent of like, I remember when my mum and dad were splitting up, and I'd be sat on the stairs listening to them argue, and like I can still vividly remember a lot of the stuff that was said, and that's when sort of my childhood ended, and I suppose I lost a lot of innocence then, and we went and moved in with my granddad Tommy, just sort of on the edge of Seaforth, Waterloo, when I was like 13, 14, and life sort of started to change there. But being like, because of my day job, knowing about the mind and delving into the past, I've really analysed and explored different elements of my teenage years, and it answers a lot of questions for like, mistakes I've made in my life, or things I've done, or the way I've felt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I think like I've certainly the past couple of years, and very recently as well, delve into like my past and my childhood, and at such a young age, when we don't really know, and we're not taught how to make ourselves feel safe in that environment. Obviously your fight or flight mode's activated. You don't realise the importance of parents being able to calm the nervous system, or at least teach it emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And we can end up storing them traumas in the body that later play out as anxiety, or, as depression, can't they? Or even like affect our behaviours and how we show up in the world as men.
Massively.
Or even as women for that instance, mate, you know what I mean?
Massively.
So I'm really, I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that, Phil, as well.
Yeah. So like, I've been doing a lot of research lately into self-esteem and causes of low self-esteem, and essentially self-esteem will stem from your childhood, and it comes from one or more factors of either not being able to live up to peer group pressure, i.e. say you're in class and you're not as clever as everyone, or as funny as everyone, or good looking. Your role in society, i.e. say, you're from a very working class society and you're surrounded later life with people who are middle class, or vice versa. But one of the biggest things is being different, and then also not living up to the parental standards. And then what happens is, whichever one of them factors you've got, it creates something called confirmation bias. And confirmation bias essentially means you've got a belief, you're biased towards a belief, and everything you encounter confirms that bias. and it manifests in two ways. So number one, let's say, for example, you're the youngest of loads of brothers and sisters, and they're all really successful.
Yeah.
And when you're in school, you went, for whatever reason, the education system failed you. You could then, leave school and go to Oxford and get like a first and get the highest thing ever. But for you, it wouldn't confirm anything. You'd still be thinking, I could have done better though. And the second one is it's how you interpret the world. So then, say that is the case, you might see other people and think, I'll never be as good as them because I'm not as clever as them. And you know what's mad? I've worked with a few like models and like especially female reality stars who anyone else would say are really, really attractive.
Yeah.
But they can't see it because of their self-esteem. So, yeah, so the biggest sort of takeout from my childhood was, because it's turned into a right sob story, isn't it? It's like
right,
X Factor.
Bring it, mate.
I'll sing in a minute.
Oh, welcome, man.
Then everyone will be sad. Yeah, my brother got the singing voice.
It's all welcome, brother.
I got the hair though. Sorry, Mike. So yeah, but it was what my dad then did, and like you say, the emotional intelligence. Our parents maybe didn't have the advantages we've got now.
Yeah.
But he just became like the ultimate letdown, and he'd make plans and he wouldn't show, or he'd come and he'd change them last minute. And he sort of. And mate, it continues to this day. I'm this is a very raw podcast, and I'm willing to go raw. Like, I'm into Buddhism, and Buddhism is not what you think. It's about peace, but it's about accepting stuff. Is what it is, mate. That's the way I look at it. Maybe in the future I'll look to build bridges again. If he ever comes to build bridges, I'm always here. But there was a series of things, and even recent things, and I think. When I'm spending time with guys like you, who, you're working on being a good role model and a strong man, and, we've had many discussions about both our lives and the mistakes we've made and our faults and the things we're working on, and he just doesn't do that. So I'm at a peaceful place where I've accepted that, if that makes sense.
I think that's a big one, Phil, is acceptance that we can't control other people, can we? In a sense. We can only control our own perception and our own actions, but something that certainly helped me with my own parents would be to now come at them with a place of acceptance and forgiveness, but also from a place of, they can only operate from their level of consciousness. So I look at it like they're not at a place where they can look and be aware of their actions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you say there, you haven't been as fortunate as us in maybe our upbringings and in the way reality is and society is now.
Yeah.
But again, mate, I appreciate your vulnerability in saying that, and it's as well as me, mate, the importance of men in our lives, and certainly with me, mate, we can end up getting attached to the wrong men if our father isn't that strong man that you need. Then we go searching for it in the wrong places sometimes, don't we?
Definitely, mate. Or we like so up until like 12, 13, I was really happy-go-lucky. Never really had much confidence, like so in football teams and stuff like that. But then it's weird because another thing I've been looking into lately, and I just want to look down at my notes to make sure I get it right. I've been looking at how we handle grief. The most famous theory for how we handle grief is called the Kubler-Ross grief theory, which is it's a cycle of stages we go through. And let's just say as well, before we go any further, Grief, of course, means, when you lose someone in your life to death, but grief is grieving anything.
It's the loss of anything. It's not just a loved one, is it?
The end of a job, the end of a relationship, the end of a friendship, whatever. So another prominent theory is by Strobe and Schutt, and it's called the dual process. And essentially, the way it works is some people, when they grieve, half the time, they're trying to adjust to, oh my God, this sense of loss. And the other half of the time, they're getting on life with normal. And what happens is, it creates often a sense of guilt. Like you might lose a loved one and, you're grieving really deeply for like a few months. And then one day you have a brilliant day and you catch yourself dead happy and you suddenly stop and think, oh my God, I don't deserve to be happy. And what I think happens sometimes from childhood and even in adulthood is, when you've had some form of suffering, you then live a sort of dual existence where on one hand, you're feeling raw, you're feeling emotional, you're feeling sad, and on the other hand, you're overcompensating. And, you know, the typical thing that I'm guessing most of the blokes watching this will say is when someone says, how are you? And you say, I'm fine. Or I'm sound, you know, mate. Because like you say, you know, maybe we don't know. One, we don't know what our feelings are. And two, we don't know how to express our feelings. And, you know, that could be down to the fact of, like when a little boy's crying and his dad says to him, stop being a little girl, stop crying. Yeah. So what I then did in my teenage years and well into like my early 20s is, on one hand, having really low... And by the way, I just want to say, I'm not blaming anyone for this. It's just the way it went. Yeah. So on one hand, really low self-esteem, couldn't look at myself in the mirror, couldn't look at anyone when I was talking in the eyes. And then on the other hand, this bravado. Like, feeling like I had to overcompensate. Not in a bullying type way, but mate, you spoke to some of my friends like Rob, who'll be watching this. He loves all the podcasts. Shout out to Rob. You know, like me and him, we'd be going in our cost trackies. Yeah. And we'd just be doing something normal, like going to the Strand for something to eat, and someone would look at us and I'd just be like, what are you looking at? I felt like I had so many fights stupidly. Yeah. Because I had this overwhelming desire to prove that I was a man. Yeah. And in my eyes, to be a man was to be tough and hard and be able to fight. Unconsciously though, Phil, like we spoke about, you know, in the past, me and you, it's like we're seeking this initiation. We're seeking to be seen. We're seeking for men to appreciate us, you know what I mean? Yeah. Our gifts and what we've got. So we feel this need to go out there and prove ourselves to the world. Yeah, it's sort of like, if you're looking at the archetypes, it's sort of like the hero. Yeah. Before it gets to the warrior, you know what I mean? You're sort of in this boy psychology before you're stepping up into the real warrior, you know what I mean? Because you haven't really integrated that boyishness within yourself. Yeah. You know, if you know what I'm saying. Definitely, because as well, so living with my granddad was amazing. Tommy, he was a massive red, but he was such a brilliant man. And when we moved in with him, he said to me, he's my mum and dad. He's passed away now, and he went, I'll be your dad now. And at the time, it made me cry because I felt guilty on my dad. But looking back, mate, what a man. But he taught us all, his grandkids, to put your guard up. But he was such a nice man, tough guy, but nice guy. And he's one of them. He taught me, if you have a fight with someone or disagreement with someone, you shake their hand at the end. Old school. And mate, and that's totally right, because that's what boys do when they fight. Boys, fighting's a bit of a game. So on one hand, I was like just a snarler, let's be honest. But on the other hand, chivalrous, you know what I mean? So well, you want to test yourself as a man, mate. You know what I mean? That's what we do. And I've realised, mate, recently that I probably developed an unhealthy relationship with violence. In the sense of violence that I've saw as a young person, which I'd forgot about, I'd suppressed. It created this desire in me late teens and my early 20s to fight, to prove I'm a man. But then now, my favourite type of films are like gangster films. I've got a real love of boxing. And as you know, I've had a couple, like a white collar fight and a charity fight against Tony Moran. And it's made me realise this. And when I used to play footy, mate, I used to model myself on Big Dunk. You know what I mean? Just like getting stuck in. And now I realise why. Because of my experience with violence as a young person, it's weird. It's a bit like, like when you're little and maybe you're forced to eat a certain food all the time, you don't like it. And then when you're older, you love the food. So that's not to say I love violence, because I don't at all. But there's that primal warrior element of... It's within us. It's encoded within you to battle. And that energy's got to be channeled somewhere, you know what I mean? Yeah. But the thing, we like men have got a very... And society as a whole, mate, sometimes has got an unhealthy relationship with anger, and as if it's this bad energy within us, when in fact it's a very special energy that's, if we've transcended in the right way. Yeah. It's what's got us this far as a race. Definitely, mate. But it's got, it gets given a terrible rap, and sometimes, mate, rightly so, because when it's out of control, we see the destruction that's going on in this city and even in the world. Yeah, mate. But it's, when we're talking about, mate, like, we have this competitive edge within us,
and something I do try and do with my lad now who's a little bit older, with Aiden, we sort of, I try and have competition with him because I want him to, he's measuring himself up unconsciously against his dad for how he stands as a man. So I'll have we'll go for a run and he'll smoke me, or, but then we'll have a press-up competition and I'll beat him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's like, it's healthy competition and healthy masculinity or healthy warrior energy within us, mate. You know what I mean? That we sort of, maybe we seek unconsciously, but we lack that with men of society, you know what I mean? Where we're seeing that we think we have to go out and prove ourselves all the time and have the best car and the best life all the time, mate.
Definitely, yeah. Totally agree with you, mate. And, when it, like, so the way you're right, finding a vehicle to channel this. So then after that bravado sort of died down, I went into a real hole and a real rut in my 20s, and so the anger that I had turned inwards, and it turned to like a bit of self-loathing. And my weeks consisted of I had a good job, got a good strong work ethic because of my granddad, but all my week was about was getting to Friday, playing footy with my mates on Saturday, going out partying Saturday night, and then hating myself Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then banged again and again and again. And the other thing as well, mate, as you know, which was apparent on PACT, was the magician. Like the magician in me is the most present thing.
Yeah, having this awareness of your own creativity, Phil. Yeah. Which you've got bags of, haven't you, brother?
Yeah. So like, all the while in my 20s, I used to have like, I would pray every day in my head, but it would be like prayers of fear. Like, dear God, please, like this. And I'd be embarrassed. I wouldn't want everyone to know that I prayed. And what I think it was, I think I had a yearning for spirituality, which now I've found an outlet in terms of not just like Reiki, but more so like I'm a student of every religion. I'll read about any type of religion, and I love Buddhism. I love paganism. I love spells and white witchcraft. Can we speak? And it's like all the building blocks that I've had in my life are now coming together.
There's gold in all of it, isn't there, Phil?
Definitely. Alchemy, mate. That's what alchemy is, turning something from negative into a positive.
So let me pull it back a couple of years, Phil. Yeah. So what was school like for you? So when you're going through school, like, 10, 11, 12, what school did you go to? And how was that? And how was that journey into manhood till you got to like 18 to 21? So we go through them years, brother?
Yeah. So I went through, because of where we lived in Waterloo, primary school, I went to Ursuline, which is like a really posh school.
Yes, yeah.
But you wouldn't know that. My best friend there, Chuck, and Chuck's family came over from Nigeria. And he just lived in the catchment area. So we went to Ursuline, and I didn't even know there was a social difference between like, the handful of working class families in there, like ourselves, and like the millionaires. And it wasn't until I got to Sacred Heart that suddenly it was like, I'm in top set for everything. Am I clever? Oh, I suppose I'm quite clever. And everyone who went to Ursuline generally was in one of the top sets, which I put down to like how good that school was. But the funny thing about school, mate, is my mum worked in the school. My mum was a classroom assistant, so I couldn't get away with anything. And I remember year 7, year 8, I was a bit of a goody-goody, to be honest. Then obviously when my mum and dad split up and that, moved. And then I sort of like went from being like top set to everything. I think I sort of stayed in top set, but I just didn't apply myself. School-wise, yeah, it was fun. It was all right. Sixth form was amazing, mate.
What men then in them years would you putting yourself around? All women?
Yeah. So matter. I obviously spent a lot of time with my mum. She, and God bless my mum. She do stuff like, I remember she took me to an Everton reserve match at Goodison, just because she wanted me to miss out. And I remember that game for some reason. Dalian Atkinson, who used to play for Aston Villa, was on trial at Everton, and he played in that match. And I also remember that match. The crowd are singing a song, and I think I was about 13, 14, and my mum was like, "What's that song?" And I was like, "What song?" And she went, "What's everyone singing?" And I was like, "The referee's a wanker." My mum was like, "Oh." So Male figure-wise, obviously I had my granddad, Tommy, who's like, you know, brilliant man. My uncles, in terms of older males, my brother and his friends, and my cousin Adam. And then in school, like, I had a really great relationship with the headmaster, John Summerfield, who sadly passed away this year. And I think because my mum worked there, and he was fond of my mum, and he was, you know, Mike was a nice lad. He sort of took it upon himself to mentor me a bit. And mate, again, very similar to my granddad in terms of his values. Could be a difficult man at times, but you know, a lot of great men are. But a real leader, and he taught me about leadership. But yeah, so he was a really positive role model. But you know what, mate? It was around that time I really started getting into films and music. So probably a lot of the, like, you know, listen to Tupac, not, you know, arguably a good role model at times, not at other times. I'm watching films, loved films, mate. Wants to be an actor. So I got sort of my inspiration on how to be a man from those sort of places.
Did you ever have inspiration, or, you know, the wrong inspiration, Phil? Was you ever around putting yourself along the wrong type of man? Because sometimes, certainly with myself and my experiences, I ended up 16, 17, I was looking up to the wrong men. Yeah. Because, you know, we're similar age, mate. You sort of, at that time, you know, there was the nice cars, and a lot of people, you know, steroids were sort of on the you know, they were like the big thing at the time. Everyone was having steroids, sunbeds, fucking getting out in the cars, nice cars, convertibles, you know what I mean? And we were looking up to that. And then it was like the drink and drug lifestyle, mate, that we were sort of looking up to. Even all the films like Goodfellas and
mate,
all these great gangster shooters, mate, you know, we were sort of getting glamorized, and we had all of the R&B music. I think I had my ear pierced when I was 17, mate. The first time I've ever said that.
Yeah. Did you get that, Jacob?
Yeah. Take that out, mate. Yeah. But, yeah. You know, did you ever look in them type of places, mate?
I never sort of went down a wrong path in terms of like crime as such. I would say more as I got to my early 20s, you know, associating, you know, I had friends who were involved in certain things, and spent a lot of time with them. And it wasn't so much of a, you know, being led or inspired. It was just part of this, like, see, what I'm learning about myself, Paul, even now, is I've got this really, really annoying trait which I'm working on. Which I did this thing recently with a guy called Liam Hand, who's a brilliant fella, and it's called, like, I want to say, like, human design, life design. It tells you a lot about your personality. It's good. It's linked to, like, numerology. And the annoying trait that I've got is, like, when people zig, I zag. So I just wanted to be different than other people. And I don't mean, like, difference as in, like, get me ear pierced. No, as in, like, you know, that. But more like, I would have friends from all different walks of life. And, like, I would really throw myself into that friendship. Or if everyone liked a certain thing, I'd like the opposite. It's like this innate thing. Mate, I don't drive. And a lot of people that tell that are like, and again, I don't want to drive. And I think that comes from, my dad worked in the car industry. My brother wanted to drive as soon as he passed. So they love cars. So I didn't. And then and it just grew from that. So so it didn't really I was impressed by, you know, the local grafters and all that. But I think it was more of a, because that was my idea. That's what a man is. A man's a tough guy. When we know ourselves, mate, you know, the hardest men in the world are the ones who get up and work from 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night to feed the kids and would do any job. Yeah. Like in lockdown, mate, when lockdown started, I was thinking, like, what am I going to do here? Because my business is just, arguably, my industry is a luxury item. Even though we know it's not luxury, you've got to look after your mind. People see it as a luxury item. Coaching. So I was thinking, what am I going to do? And mate, I would do any job to feed my kids. Mate, I'd go and scrub toilets with a toothbrush and then brush my teeth with it if I had to. Yeah. So, so to answer your question, I looked up to them type of guys, but I didn't it didn't drastically affect me life.
Yeah, it didn't impact it on a deeper level, mate.
No.
So did you have any if we're moving into like your 20s now, mate, if you're like, you know, your early 20s, what was your going out life like, mate? Was you involved in much of the, you know, the 051 times? Like they were the major club times in Liverpool, mate, you know what I mean? I remember it was sort of probably coming to the end of when, it was coming to the end when I was probably growing up in them years, mate. Like
how old are you again, Paul?
34.
Right.
We had like pleasure rooms, 051, Sunrise, and, you know, I was a bit past the state, mate, and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Never got to go to nothing like that. But did you have any big going out days and party lifestyle yourself, mate? Or?
Yeah, like I was saying to I'm in a WhatsApp group with you know, the mate they call the ultras.
Yeah.
Or like the naughty ones in the Marsh Lane Harriers.
Yeah.
And we were talking today. I the first time I went out drinking at the time, I was 13, and they don't believe me. But I did, because I looked older. But then actually, and this is another one, mate, with alcohol. So I look back to what was my experience of alcohol as a child, and I just vividly remember in our house in Devonshire Road by the Barbacoa, there was like a living room there, and then there was a living room with a kitchen. And a Friday and Saturday night, my mum would be in that living room watching soaps, maybe having a glass of wine, and my dad would be in the other living room, lights off, music on dead loud, just drinking. And my brother, because he's 4.5 years old, older than me, he'd be going out, and I'll be honest, mate, putting it out there, I think, you know, there's probably a lot of people watching this who are unaware that either themselves or family members have got a form of alcoholism. Alcoholism isn't just getting up in the morning and having vodka, and alcoholism is binge drinking. And that's what I did, but like with drinking for me, I would never the type to like, it's Tuesday night after work, I'll have 2 pints. It would have to be, I'm going out, so I'll drink.
Yeah.
Or I'm staying in, I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
So I started going out properly when I was about 15, to like the George and Sully's and the Merton. And then town from about 16. So the way I got into town was, only went to 05 a couple of times, but religiously went to a place called the Sunrise.
Yeah.
Every week, mate. Every week. Used to play footy all day Saturday, go to Sunrise, burn even more calories.
Bottles of water.
Bottles of water, mate. Bottles of Rush. And what we do is, you get your Rush and you do...
A Rush bomb.
Yeah, man. Have you ever drank it by mistake?
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Yeah, like...
Yeah.
So yeah, we'd have a Rush bomb. And yeah, that was... And then sort of... The Sunrise sort of ended when I got to about 18, 19. Used to go to pleasure rooms. Don't know why it was called the pleasure rooms. It's nothing pleasurable about it, mate. And then, yeah, like it's weird because then there was a bit of a crescendo. So, sixth form, mate, best time of my life. Like really came into my own. You know, I was very, very extrovert then. And then I went very introvert after that for my 20s. And now what surprises a lot of people is when I'm doing this job and I've got this hoodie on, I've got loads of confidence that I can tap into and be extrovert. But as you know, mate, I'm a massive introvert away from it, even to the extent of like, we had a chat recently about, obviously I came on PACT and changed my life, loved it. And there's always events and meetups that you guys do, such as you had like a massive walk on Wednesday, which I never go to. And I said to you, it's strangely, you know, put me on a stage in front of 10,000 people, easy. Put me in a car with a few people and we're going somewhere, and I'm suddenly like, I have to make myself be the MindPT. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's the yin and yang. And even though my star signs are Sagittarius, my moon signs are Gemini, and I feel like I'm evolving into a Gemini, which is like, you know, split personality. So yeah, anyway, partying days, mate, yeah. Sunrise, Fudge, Arena, and then...
Very similar, mate. Very similar, yeah, very similar. I mean,
we probably had a fight.
We probably did, mate. 2-1.
Not if you had your earring in, mate, that would have won. But no, you'd win.
No.
We both know. So then, yeah, and then 20s. Can I swear?
Mate,
time was shit.
For it, mate.
Time was shit in my 20s. Like, what fucking level, mood. But it was more just going out and having and bevies and going to bars and that. And then now I'll probably go out like, I can go like a year without drinking, but I'll probably drink about once every 2 months and just want to have a laugh, mate. Just go to like, end up in the Solly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stay behind, but go wherever, mate. So that was sort of my lifestyle. with alcohol and you know, partying and that, take it or leave it, mate. It was never put me in a really dark place or anything, thankfully.
Okay. Boss to air, mate. You've never been in a really dark place because of it.
No.
But let's tap into how you've come to be the MindPT, mate. Like, you know, what's that journey been like? If you can just lead us through that journey of how it's evolved to what it is now.
Yeah, so there's an old Portuguese saying which is change yourself and change your fortune. And there's an old Sudanese saying which is what you see in yourself, you see in the world. So when I got to the end of my 20s, I had my first son, Oscar. I started looking at everything quite in a different way, and I realised, although I'd worked in an office environment for like 13 years, I couldn't do it much longer. I remember someone had been in this, I work for Shop Direct, they're called the Very Group now, and someone had been there like 30, 40 years, and he was bringing me a cake, and my God, I was having a panic attack because I was thinking, I can't work here for that long. No disrespect to anyone who works in an office, etc. So that's when I started like getting into Tony Robbins and Viktor Frankl. And I mean, I'll tell you the story, which if people have seen me on other podcasts, they're probably bored of me telling the story. Rob tells me off his head all the time. But the true way I got into everything was, it was around Christmas, and like however Christmas fell, I asked for a holiday for a Monday because everyone was going out on a Sunday night, and I never got the holiday accepted. So then I wasn't going to go out. I got to Sunday, I'm not going to go out. I'll go out, just have a few bevies. So I've gone out, woke up in the morning, bladdered still, and I thought, I can't go into work. So I rang in sick, and I did the old chestnut, which people love this little tip. I lay upside down off the bed and rang in. So you sound sick. Yeah. So I rang in sick, but I used to, because I was a senior manager, so I sort of knew what looked realistic and what didn't. So I knew I had to stay off for the week and blag I was sick. Now, my granddad, who brought me up, very strong work ethic, like that guy. I remember I used to be in, when I first went to uni, John Moores, and I dropped out, to be honest. But I didn't want to tell him, so I used to just get the bus to town and walk around town, and he clocked me one day. That's what his work ethic was like, you know. He could have his arm amputated and go back into work straight away. Yeah. So while I was off for that week, I was feeling so guilty and hated myself. Didn't really do anything that week, just lazed around. Went back to work, and then I genuinely got sick, got man flu. So I was then off. Went back for a week, was off for a week. And that week I was like, do you know what? I need to do something. So this was the days before podcasts. I was watching Tony Robbins on YouTube. And then I read that book, Man's Search for Meaning, with Viktor Frankl. And, you know, the whole message of that book is, which I won't ruin what happens in the book, it changed my life. If you haven't read it, Man's Search for Meaning, was this idea that no one's going to come and give you what you want in life. The world owes you nothing. And if you want to do something, you've got to make it happen yourself. If you can't change your situation, change yourself. Yeah. Another famous saying that I like is, if you start weaving, God will give you the thread, or the universe will give you the thread, which is if you start pointing yourself in the right direction, opportunities will arise. So I was like, oh my God, yeah. And I used to have this limiting belief that you had to have some form of credibility to do something. So, for example, I used to think, I went to John Moores to do business studies and dropped out, but then I always loved history. So when I was 23, I went back to Edgill to learn to do history, because I believed, well, to understand history, you need a degree in it. You don't. But at that time, I still believed that. So I was like, well, what course can I do now? And I found this hypnotherapy diploma on Rodney Street. So I thought, well, I'll go for that, and I'll either not like it, or I'll like it but not be very good at it, or as it transpired, I loved it and I was all right at it. And here's an interesting thing, mate, because for everything that I can sort of point towards how my dad might have been a better father, and you know, maybe I was just expecting love in a different way than him. He did actually, for that course, give me the money to go on it. It's like 500 quid. So, you know, I've got to give the guy credit for that. I give him credit for a lot of things because, you know, he's probably doing the best he can. But anyway, went on that course. I learned hypnosis, started my hypnosis business straight away. But then the key where this MindPT thing came from, I got to the point where I'd built my business up enough to leave that job. And I was doing this full time. I was in uni doing psychology, masters in psychology. And I just went through a bit of an identity crisis business-wise, which, you know, you will encounter, mate. And it was relief hypnotherapy, which is what I was called. It's a bit wishy-washy. Not everyone wants hypnotherapy. Started calling myself the Phil Steele. And I just thought, that's really egotistical. So I was like, well, what do I work with? What do the mind? I work with the brain, the mind. What am I? Like a PT for the mind. Boom, that's where it come from. And I wanted to work with boxers. So then I just thought, well, what would my branding look like? Well, I'd wear hoodies with the MindPT on, and I'd do this and that, and this is the type of font I'd use. And it went from there, mate. And then got my first big boxer as a client, Big Davy Price. And then it just sort of snowballed from there, mate, and morphed into what it is now.
I think finding your identity as well, mate, certainly in this work, it's something, you know, I'm made up you brought it up, to be honest. Because it's something that I got called out a little bit on by Martin. To be honest, you know, searching for this identity of who you are, what is your brand, what are you offering.
Yeah.
You know, you can have as much knowledge as you want, but you need to stamp who you are and not just be talking, spitting out what you're listening to, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've got to nail your own identity from who you are and what you offer to everyone, mate. And the only way you can do that is being authentic to yourself. And,
That's
you know,
it,
just turning up naturally who you are, you know what I mean? Without trying to be anyone or convince anyone of anything.
Yeah.
I think that's what people buy into, mate, you know what I mean?
Defo, mate. I think there's a thin line, which there's this thing called altruistic narcissism, where people do things. They do an altruistic deed. They do like a good deed, but it's for their own. It's for them.
For their ego.
Yeah.
Their ego.
And you know, the latest psychological studies tell you that 80% of charitable acts are done to fulfill something from the ego. So what I think is important, especially like if you're a coach or you're leading people, is finding that balance of showing your identity, but not like ramming it down people's throats and, you know, making everything that happens to you or your clients about you. Because the way I think of it, mate, is if someone comes to me and they've got minor anxiety or confidence issues, or they're a sports person and they improve, it's not me. It's nothing to do with me. It's what's in my head. It's what I know. And it's how they take that on board. So like one thing that I should work better on, mate, is this. I actually find it difficult to handle praise. You know, if someone like, I don't know, it just, and it's the same with like birthdays and that, mate, you know, like someone making a fuss on your birthday. You've got to for your kids, haven't you? You've got to like have a little.
It's feeling worthy though. Essentially, it's feeling worthy of feeling that praise and that love. Like it's just a lack of worthiness there, like somewhere within you that feels like I've had similar experiences, and someone will say, oh, "That was amazing, unbelievable." You're like, "Yeah, thanks." You're just like,
you want to pass it off.
You don't take it on. You just don't take that feeling on board and give yourself that pat on the back. You know what I mean? To say, you know what, that was brilliant.
I know as well, mate. My business, I'm holding myself back still now because, like, I might put on a post, a video of me, and next week I'll take it down. So if you really looked at my page, you wouldn't truly know what I did. You'd think maybe I was just spitting quotes out. And I know that holds me back, but it's finding that balance in it. And I think that's a massive, like, I feel like I've achieved stuff with the MindPT brands. And 37 in a few weeks, I feel like the next phase of my life is really getting comfortable with who I am as an individual and balancing that. And mate, I'm not just saying it because I say it to everyone. PACT massively helped me with that, mate. You remember the first time I turned up there, and I was just raw from the off, like speaking from the heart. And we always laugh, don't we? Because for those of you who haven't been on PACT yet, Paul, each week it's a different like topic, and Paul will introduce it and he'll talk about it and he'll give brilliant examples, and then he'll go round and ask people about it. And soft lad here, I'd always end up sitting by where Paul is, but because like I'm hypnotising people all day or doing Reiki, when Paul would talk, I'd be like, oh yeah, and I'd just go into like a bit of a trance and he'd go, what do you reckon I'm feeling? I'd be like, oh mate, I'm sorry, I don't know what you were talking about. But it wasn't like in a rude way, it was because I was so chilled and relaxed.
Yeah.
Brilliant, mate. So I think identity's massive. And you know what though, mate, like if you're honest with your work and you've got pure intentions with your work and you stay in your lane, the right people will come to you and you'll be able to help them.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people stepping up in this city right now. There's a lot of people that are doing mind coaching and, whatever. I know a couple, mate, you know what I mean, who are good friends of mine. There's a lot of people stepping up, mate, to it, isn't it, at the minute in this city, mate? And I think everyone's probably searching for their identity within that box, if you like, at the minute. Or within that realm, you know what I mean? There's a lot of men stepping up. There seems, mate, I think, a good mate of mine, Mark Carley, he started doing the mind coaching now, and Kev Deeves, the mind shaman as well. And they're doing great things, and obviously Jay's doing Don't Walk in Silence, he's doing it. So, there's three of my close mates who are doing it. But I think it's important, we all nail our own identity for what you are and who you're offering, what you're offering, mate, you know what I mean? And you're not just coming at it, Phil, from a place of, like, I'm a mind coach. You've got degrees up to your eyeballs, you know what I mean? You're a really knowledgeable fella in terms of the mind, aren't you? I wouldn't go to anyone else, mate, if I need any help with the mind. I certainly like, really respect what you do, Phil. And, I leaned into a course, what you did now on, was it in February and March of this year, to learn about hypnotherapy and more about the mind, because I got a very high value in investing in myself and in my knowledge, because I'm holding space for people. So it's like, you can only heal people. My belief that if I want to heal people at the deepest level, I need to go to them depths. Yeah. So you're trying to help people who've got trauma. I need to go to that place within myself to be able to do that. So I'll be leaning on the likes of yourself and, professionals to guide me into them places, mate. So tell us about hypnotherapy then, Phil, because this is something that blew my mind on the course with you, about actually how it works. And, I bore the life out of Carly sometimes and my kids with this, and talk about the reticular activating system.
Yeah, the RAS.
You know what I mean? About the RAS, mate, and going beyond that. And obviously your conscious mind's like your security guard, isn't it?
Yeah, mate.
That's what goes in and out. And then you've got your subconscious mind that's obviously holds all your memories. Yeah. And how to react to certain situations. So tell us about how hypnotherapy works.
Okay, mate. Before I tell you that, just while it's fresh in my head, one thing that, if there's anyone watching now who's starting coaching or on their coaching journey, the key thing is know your level. And because when people are investing and entrusting their mind and their emotions on you, it's very important that you don't swim in the deep end too soon, because it can be really dangerous. And even now, there's types of issues I'll turn away. Like,
let's talk about that then, Phil, because I had an ab reaction on your course.
Yeah, mate.
You know what I mean? So that's, we're not really messing here when we say this. Like, a trauma response came up within me when I was being hypnotised, didn't I? Yeah. So if you've got someone in that situation, who has been traumatised, and you're doing a hypnosis on them, or you're doing mind coaching or something, and it triggers that trauma response. Yeah. You've got a duty of care to them, haven't you?
Definitely. And like, the first person I ever hypnotised, so on the course, you're hypnotising the people who you're with, and Chuck and Rob, who have mentioned, they let me hypnotise them. Jay Fullerton, who owns the treatment table, practiced on them, and a few of my cousins. So then started a Twitter account and Facebook. My first paying client was a dentist. And she said, I booked with you because of you, because at the time I just had a BA on the diplomas from hypnosis. I booked with you because you've got them. And her thing was, she was coming to me, and I can talk about it because I'm not revealing who she is. She's a real prominent dentist. She lectures about dentistry, and she also has her own aesthetics business. And her problem was confidence with the aesthetic side. So her hands were shaking when she was like using needles and that, or whatever, scalpels. So I remember God just got me office. She came in. Hi, you okay? I'm nervous. The thing with hypnosis is there's two ways to do hypnosis. There's with a script where you've got the words written down and you read them off a page, or you just ad lib. And when you first start, you generally do use scripts. You might continue using them forever, or you get to a level like myself where I wouldn't need a script now because I've done it like thousands of times. So anyway, I'm doing this script. It's all going well. There's a process to hypnosis. Hypnosis is just a process. People say they can't be hypnotized. It's a process. You can't not be hypnotized. If anyone thinks you can't be hypnotized, come and see me. I'll hypnotize you for free to prove it to you. Just so you, for your own knowledge. So do the process. I'm getting to the therapy bit, which I've designed around this confidence. And she starts crying uncontrollably in hypnosis. And as we know, that's called an abreaction. Just the same like if you put a moisturizer on, which I'm not ashamed to admit, I burned myself on the sunbed yesterday because I wanted to look good next to you, Paul.
Oh, come on, Phil.
So I had moisturizer on last night, okay? You could have an abreaction to that on your skin. So she was having an emotional abreaction. And I'd got this book called Scripts and Strategies for Hypnosis by Roger P. Allen. And I'd read that day this script called, what's it called? The Garden of Remembrance. Okay, essentially this script is you take someone who's lost a loved one to this garden and you put them in it, you basically sit them down on a bench and you say in front of you there's a golden gate. You can't go through that gate, but things might come through from the other side. So when she's crying, the first thing that I knew about an abreaction, as I did with you, was you don't wake someone up. You keep them in hypnosis. Take them to a safe place. 1, 2, 3 in a safe place. So I was like, oh, okay, do you want to tell me why you're upset? And I didn't know, but her mum had died recently. And she was missing her. And I knew this person was a bit spiritual. So I got my book out quick and I did the Garden of Remembrance. And as I say, I'm not saying in the script, I don't say, and in a minute your mum's going to appear. I just say there's a gate and you can't pass through it, but it might be open from the other side. And she starts crying, different tears. And I was like, what's happening? And she says, my mum's there. And she held and said goodbye and all that. The issue she came for ceased. It stopped being an issue. So where I'm getting at that is I was really fortunate with my training by Pauline, who trained me. She taught us how to handle abreactions. So for example, say like there's a few issues I won't treat. For example, if someone was, abused as a child, if someone got in touch with me to say they were abused as a child, and you got anxiety now, I'd be saying, no, you need to go to a doctor and get some psychotherapy. Yeah. If someone said to me, I need a bit of motivation for public speaking, yeah, all day. But for stuff like that, but someone could come to me, because they've got a phobia of houseplants. Oh yeah, easy, we'll get rid of that for you. And then it transpires when they're in my office that they were abused as a child. Now, I've got a duty of care then. I can't just kick them out. I've got to work with what's in front of me. And it's the same with an abreaction. So it's a very key thing. So there's two elements to that, mate. And if any coaches are watching, number one, you've got to understand what an abreaction is and how to deal with it. And number two, you've got to ensure that once you've dealt with the abreaction, that person's not leaving your space until they're feeling calm. Explain to them. So with you, your abreaction came up, and because you've got the emotional intelligence, we could explore it. Like, why has that come up? What's happening with it? But mate, it was, I think it was brilliant for you in a mad way.
Jeno got a fright, didn't he?
Yeah. He was like, but I think it's good for you, mate, because as you know, mate, every time you level up, a new hurdle comes. Like, the famous quote in Macbeth in Shakespeare. Shakespeare's going around killing all these, Macbeth's killing all these other princes because he wants to be king of Scotland. And he gets to the final, Prince Duncan, and his wife says to him, like, if you kill Duncan, you're the king. And he says, yeah, Duncan's my step. I'll either leap over him or I'll stumble on him. So when we level up, we're given these steps to see, are we the same old version with the same old habits, or can we go further? Why your abreaction got triggered, again, is a positive, because your non-conscious felt comfortable enough for you to deal with it there and then. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have come up then. And you know, our reactions, you can get them in Reiki, you can get them in any form of healing. You know, it's quite common with sports people as well. Mate, even like like a few years ago, I did the London Marathon and did not train at all. And this is how the body, because you think about this, Paul, I've been thinking this lately. You know, if our minds can't handle a thought, it passes it to the body. Think about why people have panic attacks. The mind maybe can't cope with it, so you deal with it. And then palpitations and panic attacks. And I remember when I finished the London Marathon a few years ago, I crossed the finish line, mate, and I wept uncontrollably. And I don't know why I wasn't sad. I was I think it was the emotion was coming out, mate. That was an reaction as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, mate. But I mean, there's so much information to take in, mate, and I'm constantly reading. And I'm reading an incredible book at the minute, Phil, called The Body Keeps the Score.
Joe Dispenza?
No, I can't even remember the author's name, to be honest. It's a foreign guy, but I'm reading it as part of a course that I'm doing at the minute, mate. But it's he basically talks about, like, you know, how we hold trauma in our body, mate, but that response, that emotional part of the brain, like, you know, say the monkey mind, for instance, or the lizard brain, that reacts quicker than the conscious mind can grab it.
Yes.
So that then, you know, the body is reacting quicker than the conscious mind reacts to an event, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So similar to what you've just said, mate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, how do you train that? How do you train your response to that?
Well, mate, it's so mad that you've brought that up, because it feeds into like this jigsaw in my head of. So one of the things that I teach most clients who come to me is a form of tapping, and tapping be seen as this like a gimmick, but if you start like if you look at some of the investigations like Harvard University have done in it to prove around that meridians exist in your body, these tiny pressure points, and what they do is, so say for example, I'll always suggest people tap the side of the hand there, yeah, it's like a little bone, and if you say a word in your head like calm, 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 your brain's creating serotonin, which is making you feel calm. It's linking it to the word calm. But I was reading this week that when we encounter something, I think it's our cortex in our brain. Our cortex, we see something, we smell something, we taste something, we feel something. Our cortex grabs hold of it, doesn't apply any emotion to it, passes it over to like the amygdalas to see how we feel about it. And the amygdalas decide if it's something we like and we're filled with positive chemicals, or something we don't like and the opposite. But when we're encountering something like, say, that door opens and a tiger bursts in, the cortex knows, I haven't got time to go to the amygdala. I'm going straight to the primitive brain, fight or flight, and we're going to feel a certain way. So how you address that is, if you regularly tap, and this is from the Harvard review, okay? If you regularly tap, you're creating more and more chemicals like serotonin. So it slows down that from the cortex to that part of your brain.
So it's training the body safety.
So it's a little bit like this. Let's say every 5 minutes that door opens and Tyson Fury runs in and punches you square in the face, and you're stuck in that chair, you can't move. But let's say when I tap, it creates like bubble wrap in front of you. So eventually, because I've created so much bubble wrap, that door will open. Tyson Fury's still going to come and try and punch you in the face, but he's not going to get through the bubble wrap.
Yeah.
It's going to be too slow. And by that time, you can move out the way.
Yeah.
It's a bit like how it works, mate.
No,
but tell me the name of the book after this, mate.
Incredible book, mate. Obviously, because we need to try and, if you've got trauma in your body, mate, and certainly myself, it's like developmental trauma.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's something that's come through childhood, through not feeling safe.
Yeah.
So, you know, the aim is to teach the body to become safe in the present moment. But that links to what you're saying, which if you're tapping, you're basically telling the body it's safe.
Yeah.
It's creating that placebo, you know what I mean, for the body to go, okay, I'm fine. I'm okay here because you're aware, you know what I mean? You've got your ground yourself. So it definitely does work. I've tried to tap on myself in the past, mate. So thank you for sharing that, brother.
You're welcome, mate.
Let's get on to what athletes, mate, you've worked with as well, and what actually brought you to the sport of boxing, mate, to you know, to reach out to them type of athletes. And I know you've also boxed yourself, Phil, haven't you? You've had a couple of white collar fights, mate.
Yeah. So in terms of, I've always liked boxing. My granddad loved boxing. So, the relationship reminds me of him. And I think he boxed in the army. And then, I don't know about you, Paul, but I've always loved football. But there's an honesty about boxers, like, that I admired when I was growing up. And now I realise what it is, because for most Premiership footballers, not all, but most Premiership footballers, from an early age, they're in an academy and they're sort of, they're looked after in many ways. Now, we know obviously from first hand, there's other routes in.
Yeah.
Like your son, he's absolutely smashing it.
Yeah.
Future Everton captain.
Hopefully, mate.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Mate. And so, but the boxers, mate, as you know also from your wife, mate, the sportiest family in Seaforth, you swear, weren't you? It's posh now, he lives in Liverland. Boxers, if anyone's watching this and thinks like professional boxers are millionaires, a very small percentage are. It is so difficult. If they don't fight, they don't get money. They're reliant on sponsors if they haven't got a full-time job. It's hard to be a professional boxer and work full-time, as Carly probably knows.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's always that honesty around boxers that I love. So anyway, started doing a hypnosis, and I don't know why, it felt like I was driven towards working with them. So the first one was, I didn't know the guy. I knew of him. I knew of David Price, obviously. I was a fan of his. And he got announced this fight against Povetkin. Povetkin, one of the best heavyweights in the past 20 years. Stunning amateur record. So I'm putting the kids to bed one night and I'm looking on Instagram and it says I'm looking on the news and thinking David Price is going to fight Povetkin, and I think I was following David Price, so I just sent him a message and was like, "Hey, mate, congratulations." Never spoke to him. "Congratulations on the fight." I don't know why I'm doing that. I didn't write to him. I wrote him a telegram.
Write him a letter.
That's how I type, yeah. So I've typed, "Hey, mate, good luck, well done. I can help you win this fight." Boom, sent it. Put the kids to bed. They probably took hours like they do. And I've come out and I've got a message on my phone. I looked, David Price. And I forgot, oh shit, I've just messaged him. Opened it. "Have you got a website?" Boom, yeah. Sent him my website. Brandon's everything. Then he went, "Here's my number, phone me tomorrow." Rang him. He's like, "I'll come to yours for a coffee." And I was like, "No, I'll come to yours, mate." Went to his. I'm sitting there like that weekend with him, having a glass of water, I think I had, or a cup of tea. And I'm talking about what I can do, how I can help him. So he came first and then worked with him for the Povetkin fight, which was amazing. And then Swifty came next, Stephen Smith. And then through Swifty, the funniest one was I got a text. So Pricey had been, Swifty had been, Tasha Jonas. I'm by the way, I'm not like just name dropping.
Stop name dropping, will you?
And then Carly Skelly came.
WBC International.
Yeah, don't you know? But yeah, you've asked me, so I'll give you some of the names.
Of course, mate, yeah.
Tasha, I'm not on Facebook now, but I think we were friends on there. I've always been a massive fan of Tasha's. And I'd swear to God, once every couple of months I'd get a message going, "Hi, I'm Tasha's mate. She told me to get in touch with you to book for sessions." I'd never spoke to Tasha. She just obviously liked me work. Eventually she started coming in, but so Swifty had been coming, and Callum then came, and Paul, and I mean now you've worked with like Jazzer, and there's one box at the moment, April Hunter, who's going places, mate. Yeah. So April comes, Carly of course comes, Marcel Braithwaite, he's been coming for a while. I work heavily with Golden Gloves. I'm like their mindset coach in Toxteth, fantastic club. Wayne Smith, obviously he's helped Carly a bit as well.
Absolutely, mate, yeah.
Brilliant fella, brilliant gym. So at the moment, Paul, I'm working with, and I can mention all these names, by the way, sorry, because they give me testimonials. Yeah. I've worked with international footballers who don't want to give a testimonial, so I can't reveal who they are. But got some great, young fighters at the moment. Tom Atchison, Connor Phillips, he's a Muay Thai fighter. He fought for the WBC belt. He's headlining a show on Sunday. And then I've got Liam Taylor from Manchester. He fought Avenetian recently. There's quite a few. I love it.
And why do you think why do you think, mate? Obviously, boxers are so forthcoming with, like, and it never used to be, but now it's like it's a thing in boxing. Like, people, and fighters, they've got a mindset coach, because it's a big part of preparation, I feel, as well. And obviously, they do. Why is it footballers don't want to disclose that information? Why is it still looked at as a weakness, do you think, in football to have a mindset coach?
100%. Like if anyone who's watching this who's played any type of football for a few years, be it pub team, your district, your school, non-league, Premier League, you'll know that the banter in a changing room is ruthless. To the extent of, like, I remember when I worked for Shop Direct, and I've always played for teams all my life. Crap at footy, mate, but I played for teams. So, the banter and that. And we'd be having a bit of banter in work. And, like, we'd be, making, like, teasing each other. And we'd tease someone, like, another guy, and he's fit. You go, like, and you'd know he's probably never been in a footy team in his life, because you've got to have a thick skin. There's a lot of bullying in football, a lot of bullying. It's so sad at the highest level, and it is seen as a weakness.
Most men in this city, mate, certainly, like we were talking about it with Tyson on the walk from the winners, and he was saying, like, in schools and stuff, mate, like, if you're not boxing in Liverpool or don't play footy, then sometimes, you're in for a bit of a tough time sometimes, mate, as a lad, aren't you? You know what I mean?
And that's totally wrong when we think about it, because not, again, there's that machismo or whatever, Tony Moran loves to use that word, of sport. And I'll be honest, I used to, like, say, like, you get talking to like, your partner's friend's fella, and you're right, mate, are you blue or a red? I don't like footy. What? You don't like footy?
Yeah.
Oh, do you like boxing then? No. Well, what do you like?
What
and
do we
that's
talk
totally
about?
wrong. Yeah. The weather's good, isn't it? Or did you know that Paul used to have his ear pierced? That's my new one, mate. but that's totally wrong, isn't it? Because, again, and it's part of that stupid culture in this city and in a lot of working class cities, that a man must like football and he must like boxing, and
that ties into how men are in football, not relating to the man coaching, then, doesn't it? You know what I mean? They're not stepping into that arena, mate, which is actually the bravest place they could go to enhance the career, you know what I mean, and the performance, I feel.
Well, and the thing with the mind, it's like in football, it's like a dirty little secret, because most top clubs will have some form of mind coach. So, for example, without disclosing a player who came last season, who is an international player, I watched his team play on Sky, and I noticed a substitution got made, and one of his team's best players came off the bench and did a form of tapping when they come off the bench. I'm watching, I'm like, he's tapping there. So next time I spoke to this other player, I was like, hey, so-and-so, was he doing tapping? And he was like, was he? I was like, on shows. He went, oh yeah. I went, how did you know about that? And the club, like, I think it was like someone who works at the club, like a physio, was a bit of a mind coach as well. So yeah, the footballers, they're not really as forthcoming about it. The ex-ones are. Get a few ex-players who come, because ex-footballers, especially professional ones, unless they've got a meaningful career like Carragher or Gerrard being a coach or whatever, they're pretty lost. And, there's a lot of lads who play non-league or lower league who aren't earning any money at all and then come out, and it's so sad. They haven't got that much, they haven't got an arm around them or nothing. For example, I listened to a podcast with John Otsemabor, and who seems a great guy. I've never met him. And he was saying, like, when he got to the end of his career, and this is in his podcast, so I'm not like just talking out of school, he had the option of retiring and getting like a payout, but he loved footy. But if he ever plays again, he's going to pay all that money back. It's madness, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, that's madness, mate.
The boxers, as you say, they're more open to stuff like that. Some aren't. Yeah. Tony Bellew, don't think, from what I've seen of his quotes, isn't a believer in, I don't want to paraphrase him, but my interpretation of it was he might see it as a weakness, which I can understand. But you look at the likes of Mike Tyson. He had a hypnotist who used to be in the side of the ring with him, Cus D'Amato, Mike Tyson's coach, who also coached Muhammad Ali and Floyd Patterson. Mate, he was a hypnotist. Yeah. So, they are more forthcoming. And the MMA guys, mate, they love it. They're crazy. It's
it's definitely, I think it helps, mate. Any tool you can put in your box, mate, you know what I mean? To call upon when it's needed is a big help, if you ask me, mate.
Because, like, you've boxed, Paul. I know you've boxed. Like, anyone who's watching this who's ever had a fight in their life, in a pub or in the playground, you're generally either angry. Well, yeah, you're angry. You're the aggressor, or you're defending yourself, so you're fighting for your life. When you're having a boxing fight, whether it be a white collar or an amateur or a pro, when that bell goes and you're in the ring or you're in the octagon, everyone's looking at you. You're not angry. You're not scared. You're like neutral. And it's like, your first thought is like, fucking hell, I've been waiting for this fight for ages and now it's happening and oh shit, he's coming towards me. And it's weird because you're in a bit of autopilot.
Yeah.
And the most tiring thing about fighting, as you know, Paul, is it's not you throwing punches and exerting yourself. It's watching him and thinking, what's he going to do next?
That's the energy, mate.
Oh, mate, it's mad,
it's intense, isn't it?
Yeah, and you have that adrenaline dump. Because as you know, so this year, the other thing that I do a lot of, Paul, which my mates will laugh, is I seem to do these big, stupid tasks. And my reason I do it is, mate, I want my 3 kids to see anything's possible. So like doing the London Marathon when I'm not fit, etc. But I signed up for a charity fight against Tony Moran, who's like 6'8". He's an ex-world champion. He's fought in loads of different sports. And like on the day, I was like, Paul, will you corner me? I've been let down in the corner. So you're like, yeah, where are you? So we've come and you've come and you're fighting him in a cage. So as you remember, I had a charity fight in the old Barcelona Grand Central in a cage, 6'8". And Cure doing me corner. Tony had trained me because it was friendly. We had a bit of a game plan. We'd sparred a lot. That went out the window when he started hitting me because he was hitting me harder. Good, fair play on him. He showed up. He didn't as you know.
Take it easy, mate, did he?
No,
I was like...
you were like, after the first round, like, you're all right, you're okay. I was like, you're on sound. You're like, just cover up.
You nearly took him with that uppercut, mate. Was it the second or the third?
Third round, mate. I regret that now because the third round, my earring's crap and he's gone to me. It's on YouTube, this fight, if you want to laugh. All our mates were there. We were laughing before, shouting stuff like, hypnotise him, Phil.
Hypnotise him, Phil.
Yeah. Don't hit him in the face and that. So the third round, Tony goes to me and he's got a gum shield in. No, uppercut. And I went, what? And he went, no, uppercut. And I went, sounds, because I was smaller than Tony. I've been practicing this Mike Tyson hook uppercut. I've been practicing it loads. I thought, yes. So we're going at it for a bit and then I saw a bit of an opening. Boom, hook, boom, uppercut. Oh, his head went like that. What the fuck are you doing? Disrespecting me. And then he threw about like 5 straight jabs at me, didn't he? Bang, bang, bang. And I'm against the cage and I'm going, I'm sorry, Tony, I'm sorry. I'll be honest, mate, I shit myself. I was like, I'm sorry. And he was like, what are you doing? I said, no uppercuts. And I was like, oh, I thought you said uppercuts. And then he could see I wasn't taking a piss. And then I asked him afterwards, I was like, why did you get like so angry then? And he was like, look at me nose, because he's been fighting for years. And uppercuts are like, mate, you could kill someone with an uppercut. They're the most dangerous punch. But one of our mutual friends, Ben, who's been on PACT, he couldn't make it that day. And he was watching it live. He was in work, but it was like streamed on YouTube. And as soon as I turned my phone on after the fight, he's put, lad, that uppercut and all flames. And I said, you nearly took his head off. So that's my claim to fame, mate. I've caught Tony when I'm with a good uppercut and then live with his punches.
You're at today.
Yeah, mate.
At least you're living to tell the tale, mate.
Yes, mate. He's probably waiting for me else. Don't go to 54, guys, because Tony works there. No, he's a great fella, Tony. He should come on this, Tony.
He should definitely, mate, be interested in speaking to Tony, mate, after this. Yeah, absolutely. It'd be great to get on, wouldn't he?
Definitely, mate.
Okay then, Phil. Let's lean into PACT.
Yeah.
And the journey that brought you onto PACT.
Yeah.
And then let's discuss how that went for you, mate. You know, what were the highlights sort of thing, you know, without giving too much away. And what your takings have been from it as well since, how your life's been since.
So, like, there's a very famous Mexican saying, which is, life isn't just about learning how to ride, it's learning how to fall. And for a great deal of the past 18 months, some things have been going well in my life, some things haven't been going well. And you know that old saying, you know, if you're an ice cream man and you're giving ice creams out all the time, you don't want to go home and eat ice creams. And so for me, working on people's minds and goals and mindset and emotions all the time, I neglected my own massively. Or I thought, I'm all right, you know, I'm sound. And obviously we spent a bit of time early in the year, you know, sharing hypnosis with you and that. And you told me about this course that you were devising and like, Martin had been helping you devise this course, and I just thought, you know what? That is exactly what I need. Because, sorry, too much ice cream. It's where I focus on the mind. You and Martin focus a lot more on the stillness and the present, being present. So signed up for the course, and I'll be totally honest, mate. I knew it was a commitment. It was 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I've signed up, and I'll be honest, in my head, I'm thinking, oh man, 6 weeks. I knew I didn't have my kids on the night, but I think I could be working then. And I was thinking, I was actually a bit thinking, I'm going to be out my comfort zone here. I'm going to be like, I'm going to have to be Phil.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect. And I thought, like, God, 6 weeks, like there'll probably be a couple where I can say I'm working, and you know what I mean? So I came to the first one. I was probably late for that as well. It was late today. And recognised a few people in there, a couple of people, which was great, Loopy especially. And then we sat down, mate, and it just, mate, it was unbelievable, because you told me a bit about what you were planning. I'd obviously spent some time with you, teaching you about the mind. And mate, you just blew me socks off. Because I think I was expecting I'm going to go and it's going to be like this gentle meditation course, and yeah, it's going to have a nice little sit off and a nice unwind and relax. And mate, it was like a tour de force. It was like we went in. Do you like that, Jacob? Yeah. we went in, and mate, it was just so powerful. It was like you changed, mate. You grew. You were like you were a leader. What I really got from it was, even though most of the guys in there I'd never met, the way you commanded the room, mate, I just knew there was that element of trust. One of the guys in there, like, I've got a big value about something, a massive value, one of my values in life. And he shared an experience where he'd gone against that value. And it made, if any other environment, that would have made me angry or whatever. And it just humbled me because of his reaction and his change. So people probably watching this thinking like, get a room used to. It's true. I wouldn't bullshit about stuff like this.
We're sitting there, mate, and we're getting men together, safe environments, and we're removing the mask, mate, aren't we? You know what I mean? We're just laying it out there, what our life's been like, and we're just removing layers.
Yeah.
And from week one, I think that sets the tone. The level of vulnerability that people go to, and then where you see people at week 6. The change is incredible, mate. How was that for you coming out of it, mate, and since?
Well, like, I know one of the things we'd spoke about was, because another thing I was thinking, like, I'm coming to this course and I would never in any way want you to think I was trying to, like, stick my nose and stuff, or say you describe something and I'd say, well, actually, Paul, that's not how you described it, right? Because I would never do that anyway. But I was conscious, and I was thinking, I'm going to go and I'm just going to sit at the very back and just be quiet, because some people there probably knew what my job was and who it was. But mate, it was brilliant. So what it did for me was, it made me realise that, for those of you who know about the archetypes which Paul teaches you about, the magician, I can manifest quite a lot. I'm made up, and that's a gift. My natural gift is alchemy, because maybe I can introduce people to new ways so they can change. But what you did for me, mate, was the warrior in me was this lost little snarler in his silver Lacoste jacket with his skinheads, smashing the sunbeds all the time, thinking he's the Don. And he'd been stifled and he'd been lost. And it was so fortuitous, because the same time that I was on PACT, I was training for my fight. And you brought that warrior out in me, but you also, mate, you'd improved me as a dad, because it just made me realise what is important as a man. And it's not, spending this much taking the kids out, or doing something that you're not comfortable with the kids. It was just spending time with them, tickling them, messing with them, play fighting, disciplining them. So that for me, mate, was and mate, the most uncomfortable thing for me in the whole PACT was the eye gazing, because like, it's just surreal to stand face to face with someone and stare in their eyes. it's so humbling. And in the end, mate, when I first was doing the eye gazing, if anyone hasn't done it, try it. It's amazing. I was just staring in between the eyes there, like that. So I didn't really have to look in their eyes. But then as it went on, I was like, what are you scared of? Because it's when you're most vulnerable, and the eyes are the window to the soul.
Absolutely.
So in the end, mate, what I was doing, I was staring in people's eyes, and I was just like, whatever colour was coming to me for that person, I was like, imagine I was firing out fire into their eyes and giving it to their heart or their soul. The carry out from that, so after PACT, mate, was absolutely flying made up. When you came to corner me for that fight, you brought the warrior out in me that morning. And if you remember, Tasha Jonas was there with us, you, Carly, you were giving me advice. And your Aiden's there, and the next minute you're like, put your trackie on now, Phil. You'll get cold. And I was like, I'm fucking boiling. You warm me up. I was like the warrior, wasn't I, mate?
Yeah, you're ready to go, mate.
And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to do that fight, mate. So loved PACT. It was so needed. And the great thing is, when I was doing it, there was a couple of people I was thinking about, they need to go on PACT. Little did I know, they went on the next PACT and the one after that. And now I recommend it to everyone, and I recommend the women's one as well to people. I had a client today, a girl who's going through a lot of issues, and I was like, you need to follow Carly Skelly and you need to go on PACT. And look, if anyone's watching this and think I'm just saying all this because I'm on the podcast, I'm not.
I think it's Phil, we're not in, people aren't in, like, you know, that for me, it's like an old paradigm, like we're all in competition with each other, but it's like, it's, you know, we're all here to help each other, mate.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? There's no like, oh, I'm blowing smoke up Paul's ass, or I'm blowing smoke up Phil's ass. Like, I'm here to help you, mate. I'm here to help everyone, you know what I mean? I want everyone to grow.
Yeah.
I want everyone to have a mind coach. I want everyone to be the best he can be, mate. And the fact that you, as a psychologist, mate, as well, you know what I mean? You're not just hypnosis, you know what I mean? You're a psychologist, you've got a degree in psychology, mate. You know, it's for you to come on a course like mine and come at it with a beginner's mind. Yeah. To not try and put your own, I know more than him. Yeah. You know what I mean? You could have quite easily done that. But you come on and, you know, it's been delivered to you in Scouse terms, you know what I mean? It's not like all textbook stuff. It's delivered in a way that a Scouse man can understand, isn't it?
I think any man, and it was just a great mix of people. We've got a mutual friend. He's in the ultras, and he's been on Martin's course, he's been on PACT, and he's been on one of my courses. And in my last course, he summed it up perfectly, because everyone asked, like, again, I was talking about PACT, what's PACT like? And he went, Martin's course is great for your soul. And he went, Phil's course has been great for the mind. And he was like, Paul's course is all about energy and owning. And it was like, you've nailed it, mate. It's true, isn't it? Yeah. And that's what's great. You're right. There is no competition, mate. Like, I used to think, I never really was a big person, like competition, like, what's that person doing? Because I think the minute you do that, you start underplaying yourself. I was more like, I'm my competition, the younger version of me and the older version of me. But then I was like, fuck that. Why? It's me. Yeah. So now I don't believe in competition. I think just do what you can, do the best that you can. Because the minute you start looking around, you're like, oh, what are they doing? You create a scarcity mindset. Yeah. Not an abundant one.
And a lack of mindset. Yeah.
It's like there's enough for everyone. And mate, a lot of coaches in Merseyside have come to me for some form of mentoring. And that's the message you give them is, look, you go. Like, some of the best ideas I have is for other people.
Exactly, mate, yeah.
And they come to fruition with them, and they nail them in ways I'd never be able to. So I think that's the way you've got to be, mate. You know, you've got to, and you know what you know, when I put it down to, mate, I saw a quote about grief, and it was, to deny yourself of grief is to rob yourself of the two most important building blocks in life, which is acceptance and compassion. Now, whatever suffering you've been through in your life, learn from it. Learn to value things.
It's a teacher, mate, isn't it?
Learn to accept. But most of all, mate, have compassion for other people and compassion for yourself. So like I was saying about my dad, you know, like, you know, times in the past, I've never hated the guy, but I blamed him for stuff. And now I just have the compassion of, do you know what? He's just different than me. And I would choose to be a different type of father than him. But it is what it is. Compassion, you know, and who knows what his childhood was like.
Exactly.
That's the way we've got to
we'll
look at it,
never know
mate.
how he's perceived his childhood, and then he's acting out, like we said earlier, mate. It's his level of awareness. You know what I mean? And we can't change that, can we? But you can change your perception.
Yeah. And mate, we're all just walking each other home.
Yeah.
In life,
I love that, Phil. Love
nice,
that.
Innit?
Mate, I could keep you on here for hours, you know. I don't even think we got halfway through.
It's got to be a part 2, hasn't it?
It's gonna have to. Everyone who comes on, that is, isn't it? I just wanted to ask you a couple of quick questions,
mate.
mate. If we just do like quick fire questions before we wrap it up, brother. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. What would be your number 1 book recommendation, Phil?
Okay, so I would always usually say Man's Search for Meaning, but I'm going to throw a curveball in. It's called Tools. I can't say that word, Tools. Can you say tools?
Tools.
Jacob? Tools. Sound like that? Tools of the Titans. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, no. Tools of the Titans. Tools of the Titans. It's in a brilliant book. And it's I think it's by a guy called Tim Ferriss. And what he's done is he's interviewed all these like prominent people in different industries and walks of life, and he's done a quick interview with them. So tell me about some of them he'll say, what's your morning routine? Others he'll say, what's your biggest lesson in life? Others he'll say, what's this and that? It's boss. Tools of the Titans.
Superb. I've written that down.
There you go, mate. Hope you're watching Carly. Stop and fill it there if he's a good boy.
Right. Do you have any insecurities?
Yeah, man. Everyone's got them, I suppose. Insecurity about, you know, I'm happy to get on a video and talk on a video on a camera, one take, boom, put it out there, no filters. But then it's keeping it up there. Do you know what I mean? My insecurity is probably, one, I used to think I didn't have insecurities. The biggest vulnerability is thinking you're not vulnerable. But now it's probably the ego. And it's probably, like I might post something or like someone might tag me in something, I'll put it up and then I'll think, shit, do people think I'm being a big head or whatever? And that's maybe why I don't like accepting praise. So that's probably me biggest insecurity.
What's your biggest fear?
Fear. What's my biggest fear? God, well, it's mate, I'm going to sound really, really like...
It's not the plant, is it?
No, yeah. I'm not scared of nothing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, you've got your kids, God forbid anything ever happen to the kids. Like, fuck. Earlier this year, might have been when I was on PACT. Oh my God, mate. My kids go, well, I won't say the school, but they go to the school and the way the schools lay out, one class finishes there, one there. So I go and get my youngest Joe, he was in nursery at the time in the school. Boom, get him. Then I go and get my middle son, Max. Boom, get him. Then we go round the back and we're waiting for Oscar to come out. And Joe and Max are playing footy with a few other kids. And I'm looking around. And then Oscar comes out. All right, Oscar's that kid who brings about 10,000 things out of class. So you're like trying to catch them. I'm like, Max, come on, mate. Joey. Joe, Max, go and get Joe, mate. He'll be around there. Goes round, comes back. He's not there. Oh, Joe. Max, go, Oscar, you go with him and look this time. Is he round there? No, he's not there. Shit, go and have a look on the field. Shit, like 7-8 minutes have gone. Where the fuck's Joe? The playground's emptying out. I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, all right, come this way, lads. Come round this way. Joe, Oscar. It's like, what's up? Starts crying. He's very like, he's lovely lad, Oscar. He's very like touchy-feely and like sentimental. Max is like, I'm not bothered where he is, whatever. I see this caretaker. I'm like, hey, mate, have you seen me little lads? And he was like, I was like, have you seen a little lad? And so we've gone to the office. And as I've gone in the office, this has been like 10, 12 minutes, mate. Fuck it now. Gone in the office and I hear the receptionist on the phone and she's going, where? Who? What's his name? Where? Hannah's Blinds. And I just knew. So I was like, is that about Joseph? She went, yeah. He'd got lost from us. And he's walked out of school and he's walked right up to Walton Vale, which is one of the busiest roads in Walton. And he's walked crying. And the girls in Hannah's Blinds, God bless you if you're watching, they've recognised his uniform and they've come out and they've seen him with me before. And they've took him in and they've bought some sweets and everything. So this teacher goes, the receptionist goes, yeah, he's on the Vale, Hannah's Blinds. They're bringing him down. So then me and the other two, me and Oscar and Max are waiting outside school for ages. They're not coming down. Waiting for ages. So I was like, come on, lads. So we run up there. And oh my God, mate. When I seen him then, that 20 minutes was the worst 20 minutes of my life. You think the most horrible, saddest thoughts. Grabbed him, give him a big cuddle. So nothing scares me, mate. But when it comes to your kids, mate, everything scares you, doesn't it?
Absolutely, mate, yeah.
Oh, mate, that was,
That is scary,
was horrible,
mate.
that,
Your
mate.
stomach turns, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Last one, mate.
Go on, mate.
What's your definition of what it means to be a man?
Definition of what it means to be a man is to... Oh, man, what a great question. The definition of a man to me is someone who is accountable for the things they create in life. Be it the child, the kids, be it their role in society, whatever. Men who show up, not men who get someone pregnant and then fuck off, or men who, you know, might sound a bit old-fashioned, men who don't fucking go and work, or men who, you know, physically abuse women. That's not a man. A man is someone who is accountable and also, mate, is willing to look in the mirror and work on themselves.
Boss.
That's my definition, man. What's your definition of a man?
Oh. I think a man, again, who's accountable, a man who knows where he's going, a man who's got direction, he's got purpose, is protective over his family, is emotionally embodied and secure, is in control of his emotions also, and has a vision, for a better world, has a vision to make and create a better world, and takes accountability for himself in doing that. Do you like that?
Spot on, mate.
Boosh!
Yes. Brilliant.
So what can we expect from you then, Phil, in the future?
So coming up, I'm doing a talk in December. Oh, so this might have heard, but it might be a new talk with a local author. She's written a book called Rewire Your Thoughts. Brilliant. So I'm doing a talk with her, and then I've got some of my fighters. I've got big fights coming up. Be doing courses at O'Darling, which is a brilliant place in Kirkdale, doing a variety of courses there, and do you know what, mate? Doing PACT level 2. I'm looking forward to that. But mostly, mate, the most important thing, the only thing I really want to do in the whole world is just raising my kids. And what I say to everyone now, mate, is this: you know, if there's ever anyone who comes to me as a client or comes on a course or watches this podcast, and you learn just one thing or you learn anything off me, share it with people. Tell a friend to tell a friend. So I suppose it's just spreading everything around. But you know what I am going to work on? I'm going to say it now, so I have to do it. I am going to work on my insecurity. And I'm going to work on showcasing me work more. Do you know what I mean, mate?
Owning your power, mate.
It.
Okay?
Yeah.
Own it.
I'm going to own
PACT
it.
level 2, mate.
Ahoy.
Hey, ahoy. Ahoy there.
Yeah, I'm going to own it.
Phil, we want to wrap things up, mate. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure,
Nice one,
mate.
mate.
Good talk to you for another 2 hours, mate. Easy. We'll get you on again for a part 2.
Defo,
okay,
mate.
brother?
Defo.
Thank you very much for your time, lad.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Boss.